We had one Trump DeSantis segment that we were going to do, but I feel like we really can't do that one tonight. We're going to have to give that the old scratcheroo, because obviously the big news, which broke just a couple of hours ago, is that Donald Trump has broken history and become the first president or former president to be indicted by a grand jury. This is NPR reporting, of course, just to get everybody up to speed, as they say, the accusations. The grand jury was examining evidence that Trump falsified business records to cover up hush money payments. Prominent Republicans have urged Trump supporters not to protest, but Manhattan is still braced for possible demonstrations. Those same Republicans have questioned the legitimacy of DA Alvin Bragg's probe, with a House committee threatening to investigate the DA's office. And yes, Trump can totally still run for president, and he says that he plans to do so. The big question is, how will this affect his presidential run? And it really is. I mean, you feel strange saying this, but it really is an open question. I suspect this is going to be a very, very difficult case to prove. I'm obviously on the record saying I think this is a mistake. But Tusker, I'll give you your first opportunity of many tonight to get yourself into trouble. So what do you think about this? You really picked a hell of a night to do this.
I know,
just
right?
How it worked out.
Thanks, Russ.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it.
Well, good news is you have a real job. So the worst that can happen is, you'll just have to, take a hiatus from the chat for a while. But, you won't get totally canceled.
No,
You'll be fine. I'm joking, obviously.
Right, obviously. Well, like I said, I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago, whenever we were first kind of batting this about. And I think that, whatever, it's hush payments for like Stormy Daniels, it has something to do with that. And so they're lumping that into sort of like a campaign finance type thing. And
they wanted her to keep her mouth shut, right?
Fucking parakeet.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean,
that kind of thing.
I can't. I guess I think it's really a shame, considering how many other presidents have essentially paid hush payments to other people. They've done dastardly things through the party mechanisms. I just think it's a shame that it's only Trump that's getting this. But I wouldn't expect anything other than that. The establishment fears Trump. And I think it's mostly just because he's unpredictable. What do you think, Keaton?
No, I think that's more or less right. And I think the stakes are especially high now that they have their war in Ukraine that they've wanted for a long time, that Trump didn't give them, which was the real reason why they hated him. It's quite obvious that he was one of very few people in Washington, D.C. over the past 30 years, I'd argue, who didn't want this. And now that they have the ball rolling, they just can't have him back. And so I think you're right. And look, this was true from the minute Trump took office, right? There was that little window between when he was elected and when he was sworn in, where we thought, okay, maybe this will lead to this new sort of enlightenment, this new sort of wave of mass political consciousness where we finally start holding the powerful responsible for all of their crap. But it became clear almost instantly that wasn't going to be the case. That, we talked about this with Matt Taibbi last week, whereas like for all the legit things they could have gone after him for, they had to make up a bunch of things to go after him for, because a lot of the more legitimate crimes, right, the more legitimate investigations would have uncovered dirt on them and their own as well as him. And so I think that was a huge part of that.
Yeah. And I would just have to say, as much as I want big money out of politics and elections and all that stuff, I just think about like the crimes of other presidents. Like, let's just even consider the 2008 bailout. How many millions of Americans lost their homes, lost their livelihoods, lost all of that? You have the bombing and destruction of Libya, which now has an open slave market. That seems to be a pretty big crime. And this one, the campaign finance stuff. Okay, go for it. But this is how the establishment is choosing to litigate this, and I think it will backfire on them. I think that it will ultimately energize his base. And I think, as far as like, because I kind of agree with you and Russell as far as like where the DeSantis winds are blowing, I think that this is a boon for Trump.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's definitely a boon for Trump in the short term. He's going to get, a sympathy pull for this. The question is going to be a year out, depending on where this goes, and how many more charges there are coming down the pike, because there's no reason to believe that this is everything. In fact, if they bump this up to a felony, which I believe they have, that suggests there might be another one, because the only way you can charge someone for a felony for this kind of crime is if it was done to conceal another crime. So they may have evidence of something else that this hush money was related to in some way. Like I said, that's all speculation at this point, but there is reason to believe that. And I think 1 year down the road, the question that Republicans are going to be asking is it worth it? Like, is it worth going into a general with a candidate with this much baggage on him? If it is, if they think Biden is weak enough where they can beat him anyway, they might just go with Trump. If they're feeling a little more cautious, they might go with Tiny D, right? I mean, so it's, that really is where it's going to come down to me. I don't think we can know for sure right now how it's going to play out. I think you're right. Absolutely, Trump will get a short-term boost out of this. I think there's no question about it. But I think 1 year down the road, I think, once people's emotions are a little bit cooler, I think they're going to start to think, hey, is it worth it? Taking a gamble, going all in on this guy.
Please clap.